Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're jumping back into the Joker and man, it feels like the party is just getting started here. Because not only is the hunt for the Joker expanding, but we also finally find out who Cressida is, who she's been working with, and why. So now let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so when we jump back in, we're very much in the headspace of Jim Gordon, to where at this time he is very much thinking about the offer from Cressida for him to head down to Belize and kill the Joker for $25 million. And though like in the front of his mind he wants to say no, but like any human being he goes through the justification process before fully coming to any decision. But this time around he's not so much thinking about the reasons that he should kill the Joker like before, like with the Joker causing Jim to lose his son James, or what the Joker's done to Barbara, or even the times where he's tortured Jim for that matter. And really, like when you're making a list of reasons of why to kill the Joker, that list will go on for days. But in this case, at this point, Jim is now thinking about the money. And with thinking this over, he kind of poses the question, like, have you ever asked yourself, like, how much does the rest of your life cost? Because that's something that Gordon has thought about for as long as he can remember. Whether it was moving to Gotham with a young daughter, trying to figure out how much a small apartment will cost, and then on top of that, considering how much would he need to put his daughter through school, and then on top of that, how much would he need for the next child that's on the way? So for Gordon, with him thinking about Cressida's offer, it really just re-stirs up a conversation that this man has been having with himself for years. And even though Gordon's solutions have kind of been like, well, okay, well, after commissioner, I'll become something like captain or land some type of respectable position that will make more money. But even with having these ideas, the bills would just keep stacking up. And he even mentions at a time with his old partner, Arnold Flask, who was a crooked cop who offered Gordon ways to make money by bending the law. But of course, as we know, Gordon's answer was no. But when times got hard, he'd admit that he would think of that offer as like a card up his sleeve. And a lot of the time, it was those moments of weakness that would cause him like to excuse himself from the dinner table and stand outside and have a smoke in that cold outdoor air in order to harden his resolve and bring his mind back in. And where we pick up with Gordon in this moment while he's thinking through these thoughts, it's outside on the fire escape of his current apartment where he's waiting for Batman to arrive so he can give Batman the most recent update. And with doing this, it does take Batman a bit longer than it would have back at the police station when Gordon was commissioner and he had the huge spotlight to put the bat signal on. So it's like now with him having a flashlight with the symbol drawn on it just shining through the window of his apartment, the response time for Batman just isn't as quick. Not to mention this isn't too long after Joker War, so on Batman's end, he's not moving around as quickly as he would have before. But when he gets there, Jim tells him mostly everything, because he tells Batman about Cressida and her silent chauffeur, air quotes, and he tells Batman that the Joker's in Belize and Cressida is offering $25 million for Gordon to go after him with the use of a credit card that has absolutely no spending limit. But Gordon does not lay out the detail that Cressida and whoever she's working with, that they want Gordon to kill the Joker. And Gordon doesn't share that bit of information because at this point, he wants to, and though he hasn't decided like the absolute that he will kill the Joker, but he definitely wants to take this job and save that final decision for that time when the opportunity lends itself. But with Gordon not telling Batman that they want him to kill the Joker, he doesn't tell Batman here because if he did, then that would be like his invitation to have Batman talk him out of it, and Gordon does not want to be talked out of it. And with giving Batman these details, like he asked Gordon, like, do you want to do this? And Gordon answered honestly, he said yes. And Batman lets him know like he would rather do this himself, but because of the recent attack on Arkham, which has pretty much reopened the wound from the Joker War on Gotham, and because of that, like Bruce can't just drop what's happening here and head to Belize. But then he expresses that he's at least glad that at least someone he can trust is heading to Belize to handle this. But even still, he knows good and well that Gordon didn't just call him over there just so Gordon could get Batman's approval. And even with Bruce picking this up, like Gordon even calling Batman in may even be a way of Gordon trying to say, hey, pull me back a little bit. But instead, when Batman mentions this, Gordon's like, you know what, I do need something. Matter of fact, I need a few things. In the first, like he wants Batman to find out who Cressida is and who she's working for. Secondly, Gordon wants access to a database that won't flag the police, which in other words is just a level of access to the Bat computer. And when Gordon asked Batman this, like Batman, his facial expression gave Gordon the look of like when your girl asked to go through your phone. But Gordon scales his back, like he lets Batman know that he can keep the parental controls on it, but Gordon wants access to like the Joker's contacts or any information about international allies or perhaps even other aliases that the Joker's used so that Gordon can fill in the blanks with solid intel from the night that the Joker first appeared in Gotham all the way up till present day. And at first Batman's kind of like, okay, let me think about the best way to do this. But right away Gordon's like, look, I'm not done, because he then tells Batman that he needs a way to reach him. And then Batman's like, what, you want my phone number? But Gordon admits that he'll feel better knowing that Batman has a way to keep tabs on him while he's out in Belize. And in the event that he needs to contact Batman, he'd like to have something better than a flashlight. But with hearing this, like Batman, he agrees with all the requests, but he only asks for one thing in exchange. And the one thing that he asks is that when Gordon finds the Joker, that he doesn't move in, but instead he calls Batman first so that he can come down and capture the Joker safely. And that way the two of them can bring the Joker back to Gotham together. And when saying this, he asked Gordon to promise that he wouldn't go against the Joker alone. And Gordon's response was like, yeah, that makes sense. And with doing this, like Batman tells Gordon, you're not going alone and I'm sending you a chaperone. So he calls up Oracle, who of course has been listening this whole time. And she tells Batman this is a dumb idea, Gordon is gonna get himself killed. But then she also points out that Gordon didn't make the promise. Like he did not promise that he would not approach the Joker by himself. And when this happens, like for Gordon to avoid the whole conversation of, are you really trying to kill the Joker? He instead throws them a twist and he mentions Barbara's name, admitting now for the first time that he actually knows that Barbara is Oracle and Batgirl, which is a change that we gotta talk about in a little bit. But with doing this, Gordon is using it just as a distraction. But with him saying it, he can't help but smile because now he has the world's greatest detective thinking like, what else does this guy know? And when this happens, Barbara then tells her father to meet her at the clock tower ASAP, which of course is a meeting that Batman just can't help him with. But then it's here where we jump down to Belize, to where the Joker is still chilling in the home to where he had killed the previous residents of, and at this time he's approached by a man by the name of Desmond, who works with an international criminal resort system called the Network. And as far as the Network, which is like a series of hidden getaway spots all around the world, which were initially established for Nazi war criminals out of World War II, but over time they switched their clientele to top players in organized crime, and not from the public set, but the private players. And time to time, what the Network would do is like they would host a huge villain, someone like the Joker, and let him stay for free in order to raise the price for future clients later on, letting them know like, oh well, the Joker stayed here, the resort is top notch, nobody found him, and if you want our services or locations, then you're gonna have to pay the premium. But then here's the thing with this Desmond guy showing up, because when he arrives here, he tells the Joker that this location is not one of ours, and these people that you killed, they're not our clients, but they were some of our wealthiest neighbors, and on top of that, they're pretty significant and they're gonna be hard to make disappear. And because of that, Desmond asked the Joker to leave the country immediately or be dragged out of this home and fed to dogs. But of course the Joker tells him no to either option, and he then lets him in on a third, because the Joker didn't just randomly pick this place for no reason. Because when he asked Desmond if he's aware of what happened at Arkham, Desmond's like yes, and the Joker tells him like because of what happened at Arkham, people are going to be heading down to Belize looking for him. And the Joker doesn't go into the details of who, because though he doesn't know exactly who, he has his suspicions and he's pretty sure they're gonna be right. But then it's here where he tells him like the reason why the Joker had picked this house is because he created a trail for someone to follow him 13 miles southwest of this location, of which also this house has the high ground. But as far as the other home, where the Joker's trail leads to, he just tells Desmond that he can send 30 men, put them in the trees, and have them kill whoever comes out there looking for him. But with the Joker doing this and making these provisions, like not only does he keep the fight away from Desmond's business, but it's also like the Joker is cashing in on a favor that he's been doing for the Network for so many years, with the Joker showing up at so many of their locations and the Network making a lot of money off of the Joker's name. But from here, he pretty much just tells Desmond to get the place cleaned up because the corpses have been sitting around, but then also the Joker tells him to make sure that the housekeeping brings him some fresh threads so he can get to work. But then after this, it's here where we get to the talk between Jim and Barbara. Because when Jim goes to meet his daughter at the clock tower like she asked, he shows up bringing her hot chocolate, smart man, she loves hot chocolate. But initially with them going into this conversation, Barbara's kind of like, okay, let's walk and talk. But just to be clear, like this whole thing of Jim Gordon knowing that his daughter is Batgirl/Oracle, this is new, but it's handled well, because once they start getting into the talk of like Barbara's implant and how the doctors have recommended that she takes it easy or the implant just won't be effective anymore. But then it's here where Barbara goes into what Jim had said to Batgirl at the time of James's death, which we talked about in the previous video, which was essentially Jim telling Batgirl that he was going to hold her accountable for James's death, which is a pretty heavy thing to say if you know that's your daughter. But the retcons handle smoothly. Like Tynion holds it together here, because Jim then explains that he was more angry or upset at himself when he said that and he lashed out. And when Barbara tries to tell him like he can't blame himself for the death of James, it's here where he lets her know like he hears that concept, but even still he can't help but hear the Joker still laughing at him. And Barbara tells him like she hears the same thing too, but even still she wants her father to know that going after the Joker is practically suicide. And on top of that, like he doesn't even know who he's working for doing this. And if the money's the issue, like the last thing she's gonna do is let her father live on the street. And when she says this, it's right here, boom, where Gordon just tells her like Cressida wants me to go down there and kill the Joker. And as soon as he says it, she's like, you didn't tell Batman that. And Gordon's like, no, and I would prefer that you don't either. And from there, Barbara kind of puts things together and she tells her father like, you're considering it. And when he responds like, I'm not considering it. And after there's like this moment of silence, but at that point it's like, yo, he's decided that he wants to kill the Joker. He's decided. And from there, when Barbara brings up like events from The Killing Joke with her being shot and her father being tortured nearly into insanity, and how even after all that, Gordon asked Batman to bring in the Joker by the books. And right there, Jim just cuts her off like that is the exact point, because even after that, like what good did it do us? Because on Barbara's end, she understands that the Joker has taken a lot from their family. And if Jim goes down to Belize after the Joker, he's then given the Joker the chance to take what's left, which is like the time that they have between the father and daughter. But the way that Gordon sees it, like if he just leaves the Joker out there, or if he locks him up and does it by the books again, who's to say that the next time around he won't just kill Barbara? And at this point, Jim's just like, you know what, I'll make a deal with you. And he tells his daughter like he won't actually kill the Joker unless he can convince Barbara that it's the right thing to do. And if he can't do that, then he'll just do it Batman's way. Which to me very much sounds like Jim is just saying what people need to hear, with a whole lot of I'll justify this as I go type of energy. But then it's here where they go back to the clock tower and Barbara gives her father a phone, which is red like the old school bat phone, but a cellular version of course. And she tells him that the phone is red so that he doesn't lose it like he did the last one, so there's that. But in this case, it's invisible to all cellular networks and is connected to Batman's personal satellite, giving him a direct line to Barbara, and she'll patch him into Batman when needed. But then also through this phone, Gordon will have access to the Bat computer, but only to the extent of information relative to the Joker, so he's not just swiping through the Bat computer like for hours on end. But with giving him this phone, Barbara tells him that first he needs to read through the files in relation to A-Day, because there were a lot of people in Arkham who were killed in the A-Day attack who had powerful family and friends. And for that reason, it's in Gordon's best interest to start here so he can see if there's any ties leading back to Cressida. But then it's here where we jump around to a few different locations, because since the A-Day attack had hit the news, a number of friends and relatives, they had got that news, with them having either a little brother or somebody that they knew who was locked up in Arkham and killed at the time of the attack. And with it being believed that the Joker pulled off this attack, he is the primary target to these friends or these family members of the inmates who were victim. Because first we go over to Hooper County, Texas, to the Sampson family, who has this huge mansion with a round table and an empty chair for a member of their family who was locked up in Arkham by the name of Billy, who was killed in the A-Day attack. And when we go here, we see that they have plans to get the Joker, bring him to Texas in order to cook him and eat him, and all in honor of the Sampson family. But then after this, we then head over to Santa Prisca, to where we find this group that has been unnamed, but then clearly off of like their face mask and the location is like these dudes were clearly fans of Bane. But in this case, on the topic of the numerous people who are going to be coming after the Joker, we now come to find out that this group has created a new version of Bane to hunt down the Joker and kill him for the revenge of Bane's death, which is kind of messed up because they don't really know who's truly behind all this. But then after this, we then go to Gotham City, where we see Cressida, who has been working with the Court of Owls this whole time. And when she meets with them, they address her as Miss Clark, but they also let her know, like with the work that she's put in, it's clearing her family's name within the ledger. But because of the work that she put in her sending Gordon on a flight in the next morning to go to Belize, The Court of Owls then allow her to retake her family's seat on the council, which finally shows us not only who she was referring to as far as friends or as family or even quote-unquote client, but it also informs us of her last name and her motive of redemption for herself and her actual family in restoring their place on the council of the Court of Owls. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.